Ryan Ishkuji, Gano Privajak Namal, Agashine and Bille for Commission Glunta Satauki Fihife Triancade came. Moving on to Private Members Bill, Commission for Future Generations Bill 2023, first stage. I shocked Marco Cahasi. If you could move for leave to introduce the bill.
Margaret Laskin-Corder, yes, I move that leave be granted to introduce a bill entitled the Commission for Future Generations Bill 2023. Laskin-Corder, anyone who has ever had a hangover understands a little bit about borrowing happiness from the future. Likewise, anybody who has saved for a deposit or who is making plans for their pension provisions or saving for their children's college costs knows something about planning for the future, knows that decisions they take today have the power to impact the future well-being both of themselves and those close to them. We understand this instinctively on a human scale, how it applies to ourselves, how it applies to our families. But do we adequately apply long-term thinking on a societal scale, in our businesses, in our planning and in our politics? Or are we too often drawn to solving the current crisis, sometimes in a manner inconsistent with our longer-term goals? This kind of thinking can be extrapolated to form a philosophical school of thinking called long-termism. Like most kinds of philosophical thinking, it doesn't always survive exposure to the real world and can be problematic in its most extreme conclusions. But put simply, it can be encapsulated into 3 sentences. Future people count, there could be a lot of them, and we can make their lives better. The issue of climate change brings this kind of thinking into sharp focus. How will future generations regard us and judge us when they look at the climate consequences we are locking into their future worlds? The carbon emissions I create today will still be in the atmosphere hundreds of years from now, trapping heat, intensifying droughts and heat waves, and raising sea levels. The same applies to our treatment of the natural world. The Curlews coal is becoming rarer and rarer around Tramore, where I live. My sons have never heard a cuckoo, and I've never heard the corncrake. Future skies, future rivers and future oceans will be quieter and emptier places unless we radically change what we're doing today, and future generations will be immeasurably the poorer for it. But our democracy, and by extension our state, struggles to take account of this kind of long-term thinking, and for 2 main reasons that I can see. First, let us examine that first proposition, that future people count. Well, in a literal sense, in our democracy, they don't. Future people can't speak, can't advocate, and crucially, can't vote. In fact, people under 18, the future generation we can actually meet and know, can't vote. Any election strategy aimed at people who can't vote is doomed to failure. In the strict electoral sense, these people don't count. And yet, morally and ethically, we can feel that this is not true. They must count, they must matter, yet our political system fails to capture that. Secondly, we, all of us, sometimes struggle to make decisions that align our long-term interests with those short-term interests, be that in terms of pension provision or indeed opening that second bottle of wine. So, our democracy tends to create conditions that reward promises and decisions with a short time horizon. This makes planning for the long term and for future generations extremely challenging. A few countries have begun to take steps towards incorporating more long-term thinking into their decision-making processes. The Welsh Government in particular are leading the way. They have created a Future Generations Commissioner, an independent, well-resourced office with the stated goal to act as guardian of the ability of future generations to meet their needs and encourage public bodies to take greater account of the long-term impact of the things they do. The work of this office is underpinned by a groundbreaking piece of legislation, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. I believe an approach of this kind could be hugely beneficial in our own politics here in Ireland. For that reason, today I am bringing forward my own legislation, the Commission for Future Generations Bill. The bill will establish an independent commission for future generations to consider and report within 12 months on how best to set up an Office of Ombudsman for Future Generations in Ireland. The proposed Commission for Future Generations can also make recommendations in relation to a number of areas, including the measurement of progress of overall well-being of our society, how best to ensure best practice among public bodies and government departments while adhering to the principle of sustainable development, and the potential role for a joint Oireachtas committee on future generations. Because I do believe that future people count, even if I can't meet them or hear them or know them. And I do believe that young people count, even if they won't count in the ballot box after the next election or even the election after that. And I do believe that the choices that we make in the here and now must balance the needs of today with the challenges of tomorrow.
Cormac the Heachta, Anish, Sian Kesht, and will in then an I and Villa. The question is the bill being opposed? No, not opposed. So the motion for leave to introduce is agreed, and again I would ask the Deputy move that the second stage be taken in private members' time.
I move.
Is that agreed? Garda Míle Mágat.